This is the latest offering from the Japanese luxury brand. It's a compact crossover featuring some rather interesting technology under the bonnet. But for so many people in this segment, they're looking for a good-looking car with lots of technology and a very refined ride. So how well does this Infiniti stack up and execute those customer desires? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the Infiniti for a proper in-depth drive, break down all of the technology, and really take a good look at the interior. And then at the end of this video, I'll place it in my ranking system. This video wouldn't be possible without the help of the Infiniti Gallery, part of the Dilawri group of car dealerships. If you want to find out more information regarding the Infiniti Gallery or any of the other Dilawri branded dealerships, all of their information is linked down below. So without further ado, let's go for a drive. So what exactly is the QX50? Well, it's Infiniti's compact SUV. It comes with one powertrain configuration in Canada, the 2-litre turbocharged VCT 4-cylinder engine with a CVT and all-wheel drive. It has 268 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. The variable compression engine really is a big deal. This Infiniti was the first car to feature this technology that Nissan and Infiniti had been developing for over 20 years. And how it basically works is you have another component added to the crankshaft and the piston. Now this diamond-shaped piece is able to change around the compression ratio within the cylinder from 8:1 to 14:1. When you're at 8:1, this is when the car is the most powerful it can be, the most alert, and then 14:1 is where it's using the least amount of fuel to move the car. And there's no way of telling when you're in high compression or low compression. As far as I can tell, there's no menu or option to show when the engine's in its eco mode or its power mode. But you do have the ability to change around the drive modes of this car: eco, standard, sport, and personal. Personal will change around the characteristics as you see fit. Now this CVT transmission is actually fairly interesting. It has 8 programmed shift points to give the illusion that it is a traditional automatic transmission. And when you use the paddle shifters, when you're in manual mode or sport mode, they all shift at the same point over and over again. To anybody getting into this car and doing regular commuting and very conservative acceleration, even with the best CVTs out there, they still can't match a traditional automatic transmission. They still have their rubber band effect, they still have their faults. So with all of this technology piled together, what is the Infiniti like to drive? Well, the 2-litre engine is actually rather quite raucous. It's got a very vibrant and fizzy noise to it, and the turbocharging certainly has some lag to it, but it's a car that feels really quite quick off of the line. The ride is just sort of okay. It feels a bit too jiggly on the highway. Road noise is perhaps a little louder than its competitors, but nothing to be bothered about. And the visibility in this car is very good. You would look back and think that D-pillar is quite thick, and with that distinctive cut line in the glass, yeah, it doesn't have as much glass there as it could have, but the rear windshield itself is quite wide. So looking behind and trying to place this car into a parking spot isn't a challenge at all. But moving on to the interior, this is quite a mixed bag for me. We have some really lovely materials in here, leather all around the steering wheel. Everything kind of elbows up is covered in leather, and there's some really high quality stitching that's practically everywhere, on the door cards, on the armrests, all the way up on the very top of the dashboard, and even in the back seats as well. This is usually a place where manufacturers cheap out and save a little bit of money, but all of the same stitching and the lines all carry over quite seamlessly. With this flowing line that comes from the center console and then kind of leads up into the dashboard, this reminds me a lot of the outgoing BMW 6 Series. You had the iDrive control system right here. If you want to go up to the top trim autograph, that's when you get the blue and white combination that you've probably seen in a lot of their promotional material. If you want that, then you have to go up to the top trim, but this sensory model out of the 5 trim levels gets all of the equipment, and that autograph doesn't add more equipment. It's just the interior colors. The ultra suede headliner is marvelous, but there's aspects of this Infiniti as well when you're driving it or getting into it that really cheapen the value of this car. For example, the key is flimsy and light, and it doesn't feel substantial in its weight at all. And then this self-centering gear selector that you have down here in the center console has quite a lot of flex to it. Like, I mean, going side to side, twisting it around, not putting it in any different drive mode, just, it feels very parts bin, those two aspects, and they shouldn't be. And the camera, whether it's the 360 or the rear view camera, just a very, very low res. Button arrangement is logical and laid out clearly here. It's everything dealing with your heated and ventilated seats, everything to do with the dual zone climate control system, but there isn't a physical steering wheel button. You have to go into the menu system in climate to access it. Not the worst thing in the world, but I would like to have a physical button at the very least on the steering wheel itself. And then there's quite a mix of what to me feels like very outdated technology. The two touch screens, you have the 8-inch one above and the 7-inch down below standard equipment, and they're just so far behind any of the premium competitors, and even some in the economy class. They're laggy, they're slow, they don't have a lot of pixel density, and at night there isn't a way to turn down the brightness together. You have to touch each individual screen to get it down to the minimum individually. You'd think that these buttons here where you have the light controls are enough to turn everything down, but at night all it's turning down is your tack and speedo lights, and it doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto either, which it's not okay in my books. This car, this kind of price point with all of its competitors, that's what people are looking for, that's what people want, and it might not be difficult, at least to me, to figure out how these two touchscreens work. I actually think they're fairly straightforward, but because there's very poor smartphone integration, it takes a lot more energy to learn how this car works. And the steering wheel has this plastic padding over the airbag cover. Don't really care for that, and there's certainly a lot of hard touch plastics that you can find elsewhere, but I don't think that's out of character for a lot of other vehicles in this class. Rear seat space is pretty good. I can easily sit behind myself, and there isn't much of a hump in the middle, so 3 people can sit abreast. And I'm blown away with the trunk that has an incredibly low load lid, and then the seats can fold down by pulling on a handle that's in the back seats as well. As standard equipment in the QX50, you'll get the LED headlights and taillights, the heated front seats, and then going up in the range, you'll find things like the Pro Pilot Assist system, and this basically puts the adaptive cruise control system and lane keeping assist system all into one, whilst sort of monitoring the driver's behavior towards the wheel. You can certainly let go of the wheel for short periods of time, even though I wouldn't recommend you doing so, and the car will guide you through turns. In this car, you also have the blind spot monitoring system that has the detached element from the wing mirror. I don't like seeing that in cars. It just adds another thing to look at. In my personal opinion, it actually makes the system more distracting. But what I think the QX50 does better than pretty much anybody else in this class is the exterior looks. This is one hell of a good looking car. It looks so purposeful, the lines are so clear and sharp, and when you drive this car, you'll notice the flowing lines in the bonnet. It's curvaceous and quite feminine, and in this car in white, kind of makes it look like a fluffy cloud. So that wraps up all of my thoughts towards the INFINITI QX50. Yes, it's an incredibly pretty car. It has some good materials inside and some technology that is worth talking about, but in this segment of car, there are so many aspects of this that fall behind the competition. It feels a little parts binny to me, with so many buyers wanting a screen that's as fast and as good looking as their smartphone. I think the INFINITI lags behind significantly in that area, and that's why I say you should take a look at the QX50 if you're shopping in the compact crossover segment. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. Please like the video if you liked it, and share it if you think other people will like it too. And if you want more information regarding this INFINITI or any of the other Dilawri branded car dealerships across the country, be sure to check their information out down below as well. Thanks again for watching. See you again soon.